Marshall Amplifiers is a brand that simply epitomizes the world of electric guitars and rock music, and in the 1970s I owned a number of amp heads, cabinets and a very nice studio combo. But 40 years on, having returned to recording music projects despite Marshall Amplifiers being an intrinsic part of days gone by, this was one manufacturer that was no longer on my radar until recently. Hello viewer, my name's Stu. Please do check out the rest of my channel as it covers my return back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. Now thank you to all who comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications and share. It really helps the channel algorithms, so many thanks. So before we look at this particular amp, I should say do take a look at my Tone King Ironman 2 attenuator review, because this amplifier needs one if you're going to use it in a confined space. And I'll also be reviewing an effects pedal this Marshall amplifier caused me to purchase, and you might just want to add the same type of pedal if you get this type of amplifier. So without further ado, coming up, 1, the amplifier and its specifications, 2, what it sounds like in use using an attenuator to keep the volume in check, number 3, points of interest, number 4, my likes and dislikes, and number 5, conclusion, my final remarks. So number 1, the doorbell rang, and here we have the obligatory cardboard box, and inside a Marshall SV20H Studio Vintage Plexi 20W valve amplifier head, along with a mains lead, a simple speaker cable and instructions. So first off, I was very pleasantly surprised by the weight, this coming in at around 9.5 kilograms or around 21 pounds. Now this head has 2 ECC 83 and 1 ECC 83 phase splitter and 2 EL34 valves. The housing is tastefully done based on one of the old designs of days gone by. It has a black textured hard wearing vinyl and gold piping, the classic gold Plexi control plate with a matching white and gold Marshall name badge, sturdy carry handle, and here you see the mesh ventilation slots and the rear panel with quite a selection of outputs and other features. Now looking at the front panel from left to right, the power switch, the standby switch, which is in standby when in the middle position, the low position runs the amp at 5 watts and the high is the full 20 watts. Be in no doubt, this is very loud. Power indicator illuminates red when on, and the manual instructs that you should leave the power on for 2 minutes before using the standby switch, and during long breaks switch the amp to standby rather than leave it sitting on full power. The first control knob is presence, giving anything from a fat full sound to an aggressive tone, followed by bass, middle and treble controls. And when it comes to the volume controls, we have volume high treble loudness control 1, linked to both the top left input, high sensitivity high treble input, and the lower left input, which is a low sensitivity high treble input. Volume normal loudness control 2, linked to both the top right input, a high sensitivity normal input, and the lower right input, which is a low sensitivity normal input. Now it's common practice to link both high and low channels together, as you can see here, with a little patch cable to blend and create a tone that suits yourself. Turning to the back panel, we have a good selection of speaker out connections for a range of configurations. Now, do note, always make sure speaker impedance settings are correct and connections using suitable speaker cable. Don't use a guitar cable. and never use the amplifier without a speaker load because damage can occur. The DI output can be connected to external recording equipment or a sound desk. The loop switch turns the effects loop on and off. Here is the effects loop send and return jack sockets in and out for those who prefer to use those instead of going straight into the front of the amplifier. And of course, the standard 3-pin mains power lead. Number 2, how does it sound? Marshall has brought out a number of these mini-sized valve heads, and each has got their own tone. This particular head is based on the classic vintage Plexi, and therefore it does have that particular period tone. Now, first off, I'm not going to be using the 5-watt setting position, and quite frankly, I'm not a fan of these inbuilt step-down switches. I feel that they remove something from the original tone and tend to add their own anomalies. And also, I'm using an attenuator, so there's really no point. The full 20-watt selection, here we come. So I'm going to be using the Tone King Ironman 2, the attenuator that I reviewed previously, because you cannot set these volume controls even at the lowest setting without upsetting close neighbours. To drive this amp, you need to be able to get the volume levels to the point where the amplifier begins to do what it's famous for doing. Now, I've connected this Marshall to a 1x12 cabinet from Bad Cat. Now, this has a custom built speaker by Celestion inside there. So, quick tone test to hear each control. dialing in to get something that might work for me using single coils. Now adding reverb. And now using a guitar with humbuckers. And in the next video, I'll be looking at that reverb pedal I was using. So number 3, points of interest. Is it how I remember my old Plexi? Well, to be honest, that was a long time ago and I really can't quite remember. But I can hear that distinctive way Marshall valve amps begin to break up as the volume increases. Now, in regard to its weight, I have to say it just feels very light. And I know it's smaller than its historical parent, but it did take me by surprise when I took it out of the box. In fact, when I took the box from the courier. So, number 4, likes and dislikes. What do I like? Well, it looks really nice. It's finished well, looks great in the studio. The one thing I dislike about valve amplifiers is the weight. Some of them are just horribly heavy. And trust me, as you get older, you just can't be bothered anymore with things that weigh a ton. It has a good selection of speaker outputs. The effects loop is a good feature and a very useful DI output. All good stuff. Took me a bit to dial in the tones that I'm looking for with certain guitars, but that's to be expected. All part of the journey, searching for tone. What don't I like? I'm not a fan of the 5-watt setting. In some ways, it seems pointless as it's still very loud. Perhaps it has its uses in certain live events. Do comment below if you use one of these and use that setting. I kind of just think for myself, the very nature of this amplifier being modelled on its ancestor, an attenuator, is definitely going to make life much easier. You can see my review on that Tone King Iron Man 2 attenuator that I use with this amp, but for those unaware, there are many attenuation type products to choose from in a wide range of prices. So number 5, conclusion, final thoughts. As always, no one paid me to mention any of the products, shown just my opinions. Now, I never thought I'd own another Marshall head because I always remember them needing to be cranked up to get those lovely drive tones, which I don't really require very often. And on top of that, I didn't really want to go to the extra expense of an attenuator. However, I think Marshall really has caught a lot of interest with this range of mini amplifier heads based on various early types of designs, and certainly in a more user-friendly package. And that's why I was drawn to this mini version of the classic Plexi. If you love the Marshall sound, then get along to a store and try out the various models on offer. But do be prepared to budget for an attenuator, especially where you need to take control of the volume without losing that drive tone that you would clearly want the Marshall for. Now, I'll be doing a review on the reverb pedal I was using, which for my studio projects, I found it was just the right pedal to lift the amp's dryness without muddying the tone. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and perhaps it's been helpful for some. Please do think about subscribing, hit the bell to get notifications, like and share. It really does help the channel algorithm. Do check out my channel playlist, which covers my journey back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. Lots of equipment reviews as I seek out the gear that I will be using in recording. So whether you're a newcomer, an ongoing player, or like me, an old hand returning to guitar playing, I always take time to engage with folks who take time to comment. So until next time, the journey continues. To take care.